Hello, this is Sarah V, and today I am going to be making a dress again. The pattern is Simplicity 5644, and I think I am going to be making view 2 down at the bottom here. And the fabric that I have is this acorn fabric that I bought on Fabric Wholesale Direct a few years back. And I think this will be a pretty good way to use this fabric. I have two different trims for it. I have this off-white gathered eyelet trim, and I have this white eyelet trim, but I need to obtain some coffee to dye that so it's a little more off-white. But since they're not directly next to each other, I'm not super concerned if the off-white isn't the exact same as this off-white. But the internet said that if I use tea bags, it'll make it like a cool off-white, and if I use coffee, it'll be like a warm off-white. And I'd rather have a warm off-white. So. But I don't have any coffee, so I have to obtain coffee for that. I'm just starting things off by laying out my pattern pieces and finding out where they would fit best, because I don't tend to actually look at the pattern diagram for pattern placement on the fabric. I cut how I cut because I only have so much table to work with. And I've never really had a problem with running out of fabric even when I have barely enough, so I just keep doing what I'm doing. But anyway, I opened this pattern and found out that it had been altered, in the front especially, because they had made the armhole bigger. So I had to close it because they had opened it like they slashed it and spread it. So I closed that, and then I also had to take a piece of yoke off that they had. They made the yoke smaller, so I just had to remove that very carefully because it was taped on. So that was an interesting surprise for whenever I opened the pattern. I also thought that pulling this fabric up would go a lot smoother than it did, but then I remembered that I didn't have all my fabric folded in half, and it was just bunched up on a chair at the end of my cutting table. So that's what's going on there. It was a little disappointing. The only alterations I had to do for this pattern was just add enough in the waist for the next pattern size up to accommodate my waist size. And I did that at the bottoms of the bodices, and then I did that for the skirt pieces also. And this just made it so there was enough ease, even though the waist is elastic. I was also going to cut out the tie for this, but then I kind of lost steam near the end of cutting this out, and I was like, I'm not making another tie, because I just made a tie in my last dress, and I just couldn't be bothered. I was like, I'll just slap some belt on it and hope for the best, or make something eventually. Which I hope to do that next week. I think it'd be nice to make a cute little belt. Maybe I'll embroider an acorn on it. That might be kind of cute. And it would be kind of like bring the outfit together, I guess, with the belt. And also because acorns are cute, but anyway. I've been thinking about what I would like to make for winter this year for my winter sewing plan video, which I would like to have up at the beginning of December, and it's really creeping up on me, so there's that. I am starting with the skirt this time, so I'm doing the skirt front and skirt back along the center front and center back seam, just sewing it up before doing the pockets. And I am doing the pockets how I have been doing the pockets, where I sew them in at like 3/8 of an inch, and then I sew them at the top and from the bottom of the pocket down to the hem, along with in the pocket bag. When I started sewing, I just really did not feel like dealing with all the lace around the yoke, and that's kind of why I ended up doing the skirt first. I figured, at least, even though the skirt is annoyingly simple and repetitive to what I do every time I make any kind of skirt with pockets, I figured, well, at least I don't have to think about it and I can just run it through the machine, which is what I did. But anyway, now I am working on the bodice, and these are the shoulders. They are the tiniest little shoulder seams because the rest of the shoulder seam is in the yoke. And now I am pinning down all of my lace, but I only pinned it halfway on because the instructions told me to. Because I did use the instructions for this for some parts. Now I'm just sewing the lace on the bodice the whole way around until I get to the center front where I had to stop, because I think I have to do a miter there. Although I do not know if that's what it's actually called, because I didn't read the instructions. I'm sure the instructions told me what it was called, but you know, as long as it works, I'm okay with it. And then once I had that done, I was able to sew up the second half of the lace to the yoke, and I didn't even pin it on. It was fine. I just flew by the seat of my pants. And when I got to the back, I didn't really sew the lace together that well. It looks a little sad, but it is what it is. Life goes on. It's not the most important thing in my life. Now I am sewing the shoulders of the yokes together. And on the lining, I sewed in my label. I keep forgetting to put my label in things. The past two projects I did, I forgot to put the label in, so I have to hand sew those in now. And I don't know, I just like how they look better when I sew them in by machine. It's more purposeful, I suppose. And now I am sewing the yoke onto the bodice, and my points in the front and back weren't as pointy as I would have liked, but I didn't want to clip too far in because I sewed up the lace in that point where the points meet, and I didn't want to ruin it. Now I am just clipping the slit I did in the front of the yoke, and now I'm moving on to the collar, sewing the lace on, and there was just a smidge too much lace, so I had to adjust that as I sewed, which was a bit annoying, but I got it done, and then I was able to sew the collar together. Now I am sewing the collar and the yoke together. And now I am starting on the sleeves with the gathers at the top before moving on to putting the casing for the elastic in, and I just used some bias tape that I had lying around. Then after this, I sewed the lace onto the bottom of the sleeves, which was super easy. And instead of trimming that edge and folding it up and using the edge of the lace to cover up the raw edge, I serged the whole edge and then folded it up, which I felt better about. Now I am sewing the sleeve into the bodice, and after I sew it in, I did a second line of stitching 1/8 of an inch away just for extra security before I moved on to serging that edge. And then once that edge was serged, I sewed the arm and the bodice side seam all in one go and reinforced under the armpit area. And that just makes me feel better and more secure, because I feel like armholes are kind of more of a high stress point because arms move so much. Now that my bodice is together, I sewed it to the skirt, and I serged the bodice and the skirt waist seam separate because I had to do a second line of stitching up at the top to be able to insert the elastic in. And it made its own little channel, and it was pretty neat. I've never done that before. I will say when I got to the hem, I did it wrong, but it turned out fine. I put the lace in the same way I put the lace in the sleeves, and then I looked at the pattern instructions and realized that's really wrong and that doesn't look that great, and then I just hemmed the skirt up 1.5 inches like it said to, and so it looked like the lace was a separate layer like a petticoat, and that fixed how it looked. Overall, I think this turned out quite cute. This belt isn't the best with it, but it works well enough. I would like to make a little velvet belt that goes with this, maybe in a red or a blue to go with some of these acorns. And although I was only supposed to put one button here at the top, I thought it would be cute to have a couple decorative buttons there. There's 4 of them with little thread loops. But it's fine without the belt too. But I think the belt is good for breaking up the pattern. And this does have an elastic waist in it. And there's no zipper, it just pulls over my head. The armpits feel good. I have good mobility. I didn't do the best job at this, but I just tacked it down because it kept flipping up. Scooter! And I have pockets, and that's always good. Also, I have been adding, I think, 2 inches to all my sleeves, just so they're the right length with my arms. So, there's that. And it's worked out every single time, and I would rather shorten sleeves than have short sleeves. But yeah, this turned out better than I expected it to turn out. I was like, it'll either be really cute or kind of blah. And I think it turned out really cute. And I'm wearing my new red shoes, which are American Duchess shoes. And I got them for a good deal on Poshmark. I love buying shoes on Poshmark. But yeah, this is my acorn dress, and perhaps I shall wear it to Thanksgiving. And next week, I think I will make the belt. Take a break from making all these dresses that I've been making. And yeah, and this one I actually remembered to put the label in. The last 2 projects I did, I have not put the label in, so now I have to hand sew them in. And I haven't done that yet. I just pinned them in and put them in a pile like, I'll get to it. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I don't have a lot to say about this because I didn't really have any problems. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and if you'd like to see more fall sewing, please subscribe. If you'd like to see what I'm up to day to day, feel free to follow me on Instagram at Sarah V Sews Vintage. Thank you again for watching, and see you next time.